The relationship between Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan and former US President Donald Trump has always been complex, marked by both warm gestures and sharp disputes. While their rapport has been described as unusually personal for two leaders on opposite sides of many issues, the bilateral ties between Washington and Ankara have endured years of turbulence. Observers note that Erdoğan's meeting with Trump today could prove pivotal. Despite the ups and downs of recent years, both sides are approaching this encounter with cautious optimism. For Erdoğan, this represents not just an opportunity to strengthen ties with Washington, but also a moment to bolster his domestic standing at home. For Trump, the meeting offers the chance to reaffirm his influence on international partnerships and test whether cooperation with Ankara can move past earlier strains. The backdrop to this meeting cannot be understood without looking at the past decade. Relations between Trump and Erdoğan were anything but smooth during their time in office. There were repeated disputes over security arrangements, diplomatic spats, and direct threats that unsettled markets. Commentators still recall the infamous warning Trump issued in 2018 when he publicly declared his readiness to cripple Turkey's financial system. Donald Trump said, "I will totally destroy and obliterate the economy of Turkey. I've done before." The tweet sent shockwaves through financial markets and put bilateral relations at one of their lowest points in years. Erdoğan's last official visit to Washington was in 2019. Since then, the global political landscape has shifted dramatically. With wars, sanctions, and realignments shaping the current international order, the 2025 meeting arrives at a moment of both high stakes and renewed possibility. Diplomatic insiders suggest Erdoğan is approaching this meeting with a clear strategy. He is expected to present a comprehensive shopping list of demands and offers, ranging from defense procurement to trade concessions. For him, the goal is not only securing practical agreements, but also reshaping the trajectory of the US-Turkey relationship. As one analyst noted, President Erdoğan will show up with a big shopping list and will want to make this meeting a turning point in the bilateral ties. This is not just about economics or contracts. It is about transforming a transactional relationship into a stable and cooperative partnership that can serve both leaders' strategic aims. For Erdoğan, success today could translate into renewed political capital at home, where his leadership continues to be tested by economic pressures and opposition challenges. No issue has defined US-Turkey relations more sharply than Syria. Since 2015, when Washington began supplying arms to Kurdish militias in northern Syria, Ankara has repeatedly protested. To Turkey, these groups are not allies but terrorists linked to the PKK, an insurgent movement that has fought the Turkish state for decades. This fundamental disagreement has driven deep wedges into NATO's southeastern flank. While the US viewed Kurdish forces as essential partners in the fight against ISIS, Turkey regarded them as an existential threat operating just across its border. Analysts stress that the disagreements remain unresolved. Turkey always said Kurdish militant groups were a bunch of terrorists, one regional expert recalled. Washington, however, has been reluctant to sever ties with Kurdish factions it considers reliable partners. The dynamics of the Syrian conflict changed dramatically after the collapse of Bashar al-Assad's government last year. For both Washington and Ankara, this created new openings and new dilemmas. Turkey, much like the US, now supports the rehabilitation of Syria's new leadership under President Ahmed al-Shara. Both powers see strategic value in stabilizing Syria and reintegrating it into the global community. Yet differences remain sharp, particularly regarding Kurdish autonomy and the risk of insurgents slipping across porous borders. Turkey's leadership remains deeply worried that Kurdish militants from Syria could rekindle violence on Turkish soil. Still, the incentives for cooperation are strong. Analysts believe that, despite their differences, Erdoğan and Trump both see potential upside in closer coordination on Syria. As one Turkish official put it, the upside to both countries from collaboration in Syria is so great that at least Turkish officials see today's meeting paving the way for greater collaboration in Syria, especially in terms of making al-Shara and his government stronger and part of the international community. Beyond geopolitics, Erdoğan's motivation is also domestic. Turkey has faced economic instability, inflationary pressures, and criticism of its foreign policy zigzags. Repairing ties with Washington, long one of Ankara's most valuable allies, could signal strength and stability to his base. Erdoğan's calculation is straightforward. An improved relationship with the US offers him both international legitimacy and domestic resilience. The symbolism of a successful meeting with Trump could reinforce his image as a leader capable of navigating turbulent waters and securing Turkey's national interests. For Trump, too, the stakes are high. Having made a political career out of strongman diplomacy, he relishes the chance to demonstrate his ability to repair strained alliances. The US has strategic reasons to keep Turkey close: its NATO membership, control of key energy corridors, and influence in Syria and the Eastern Mediterranean. Trump's team views the meeting as an opportunity to reposition the US as a decisive power in Middle Eastern affairs, particularly after years of criticism over inconsistent policies in Syria. Success with Erdoğan could showcase Trump's claim that he can rebuild fractured alliances where others failed. This meeting comes against the backdrop of a rapidly shifting world order. With Russia's war in Ukraine, the rise of China, and the continued instability in the Middle East, US-Turkey relations cannot be seen in isolation. Turkey's role has grown increasingly complex. It has maintained trade ties with Russia while simultaneously supporting Ukraine's sovereignty. It has positioned itself as a bridge between East and West, seeking to benefit from both Western institutions and Eastern partnerships. This balancing act has at times drawn suspicion from Washington, but today's meeting signals that both sides may see more value in cooperation than confrontation. Diplomatic insiders caution against expecting dramatic breakthroughs. Instead, they anticipate incremental progress, agreements on defense and trade, steps toward closer coordination in Syria, symbolic gestures of friendship to signal a thaw in relations. But much depends on whether Erdoğan and Trump can move beyond the disputes of the past decade. The 2018 economic threats and the persistent disagreements over Kurdish groups have left scars that will not vanish overnight. Yet the political incentives on both sides are clear. For Erdoğan, demonstrating a strong personal connection with Trump could be invaluable. For Trump, showing he can reset relations with a difficult ally underscores his reputation as a deal-maker. The Erdoğan-Trump meeting is less about nostalgia for past cooperation and more about pragmatic necessity. Both leaders face domestic and international pressures that push them toward collaboration, even as disagreements linger. The coming hours will reveal whether the testy relationship between the two men can evolve into something more stable. At stake is not just the future of US-Turkey relations, but also the trajectory of Syria's reintegration into the international system. What is clear is that both Erdoğan and Trump see today's encounter as a chance to turn the page. Whether they succeed will depend on their ability to navigate the difficult balance between partnership and rivalry, something that has defined their relationship from the very beginning.